for those people who are unable to join us live, because it provides a great opportunity for them to still be able to learn from the experience. And so again, tonight we are super excited to have this wonderful group of folks join us. We are going to be led by Myra Deister, who is one of our community ambassadors for the CS for All Teachers community. Myra is serving her second year with us, and what that means as an ambassador is she helps to lead the efforts within our community and lead the great work from her position in the classroom as a high school CS teacher in California. So with that, I'm going to turn things over to Myra. I will still be here and be in the background if there's any technical issues, but I'm going to let these folks take things away because they are the experts tonight. So take it away, Myra.
Okay, I want to thank my guests for joining us tonight. The first one is Derek Babb. He is our CSTA Conference Chair. I appreciate him agreeing to join us. And Alfred, who is also, he is on the CSTA Conference Committee, as well as Vicky, who also serves on the CSTA board. So I want to thank them for agreeing to spend some time with us to talk about the CSTA conference. Okay, next slide. Oh, there we go. And housekeeping. So this is a slide about, and I'm sure you're all experts at Zoom, and I'm not too sure you have to go through all of these steps for the different icons on the Zoom board, a Zoom panel. But if you do, you have the mute and unmute, the share, the stop webcam, access, chat. Make sure you click on the chat if you want to do some back channeling, and leave the meeting. Okay. Okay, you can use the reactions found in the attendee controls, and you can display thumbs up or clap hands and react. Oh, I didn't even know that. Reactions will disappear after 5 seconds. Okay, you can use any other nonverbal feedback options, and icons are under the More button, are agree, disagree, clap, need a break, and away. And only one symbol displays at a time. Click the icon to remove it. Okay, you can switch between gallery view and speaker views when the webcam are shared in the upper right corner, and adjust the view of the meeting, and access annotate features are under the view options menu at the top of the Zoom screen. Okay, which of the CSTA conferences have you attended? And I can tell you my experience. My first one was San Diego in 2006. And I know Alfred goes back further than I do. I think you go back to the first one, don't you?
I do. The first one was actually the CS and IT conference. It was held in conjunction with what is now called ISTE. And actually it was held, I think, in 2 hotel meeting rooms about a block away from the main ISTE conference. I think we had about 75 people, maybe. I actually stumbled on it by accident. We didn't have as good of means of letting teachers know. There was no CSTA, and social media was still pretty much in its infancy. But I think everybody there agreed we needed to do more. And it's gone on since.
Oh, somebody said 2009. That was Washington, D.C. How cool. And Vicky?
I have attended since San Diego, 2016 San Diego. So the last 5 of them, including the virtual one this year. And we'll be attending, of course, the virtual one next year.
And Derek?
Yeah, my first one was the St. Charles, Illinois, which was touted at the time as being Chicago, which it was not quite Chicago. But that one, yeah, I was just so overwhelmed. You know, I'd been doing this for so long just as an island. I was the only computer science teacher in my entire school district, which had 2 high schools. And I was blown away by the fact that there are communities of people coming together when I had just been doing this all on my own. So aside from the fact that it wasn't technically Chicago and the Pheasant Run Resort is one of the funniest places I've ever been, it was a wonderful time that I've tried to go ever since. I think I missed Texas, but other than that, I've been at all the subsequent ones. And I was really excited in 2018 when it was here in Omaha. You get to show off your hometown, and there's a lot of sort of things that you get to do when it's just in your backyard.
And my experience was San Diego way back in 2006, and it was a small conference, kind of like Alfred's, and it was in connection with NEC, which is now ISTE. And I know they CSTA sort of parted ways with ISTE. They used to try to plan it either before or after ISTE, but now it stands on its own, which is nice. And I remember Leanne DeLizer did a hands-on presentation for us. I was teaching computer science AB at the time, and it was a hands-on about an advanced data structure that she gave us a example of. Okay, and I see a lot of people in the chat attended recent ones, so that's good. Okay, let's move to the next slide. Okay, and as you probably know, because I know it's been announced that for 2021, the CSTA conference is again going to be virtual. So you can plan on that, and the advantages of virtual is you don't have to travel and you don't have to get a hotel, so you're in the comfort of your home, and they're going to, I'm sure, Derek can confirm this, record them again and make them available for a certain length of time. So if you miss something, you can go back and review it. Or if you want to see it a second time, which I did on a few, you have that opportunity.
And that was the biggest thing for me this past one, is that I proctored a number of the sessions as the workshop chair. And I had sessions I couldn't go to but wanted to attend, and was able to watch them after the fact. So that's a huge advantage.
Okay, should we move to the next slide? So why attend a virtual CSTA? Well, I gave you a couple reasons. No travel, no hotel. All the sessions are about computer science, which is good. You can meet other computer science educators, possibly near you or across the country. You can expand your knowledge about computer science pedagogy. That's one thing I love. I love to see what different things people are doing in their classes so that I can try and incorporate it. And you can walk away with new instructional strategies. I've already said no travel costs, learn from the comfort of your home. That's always good. You can go grab a snack when you need to. And as I said, you can review the recorded sessions on your own. Oh, thank you, Derek. And in the chat, he put in the URL to sign up to get the most recent information about the upcoming CSTA conference. Okay, next slide. Hey, Derek, reflections about previous presentations you've done.
Yeah, so I talked already about the first conference that I went to and how I was just sort of blown away by there being this group of people talking about computer science, and we didn't have a local CSTA chapter. We started one after that, so we did a lot more locally. The first time I presented was when it was in Omaha, so I felt like, okay, stakes are pretty high after this one, but I was really excited to get the opportunity to present. Really nervous. I am not necessarily a natural presenter, even though we're all teachers. We all get up in front of people all the time. It's so different when you add adults to the room. You can talk to students all day long and not have any problems with it, but all of a sudden when it's your peers, it feels a lot more daunting. So I did it that first year. I got my local CSTA together and I ran what I was going to do as sort of practice. But in the end, it was such a great experience. It really opened a lot of doors. I was talking specifically at that time about cybersecurity. I had just been recently teaching a cybersecurity course. We didn't really have anything to go on, so I was just presenting to people what I had been doing. And sort of subsequent to that, we've seen a lot of growth in that area. And we've, from that sort of group of people that sat around afterwards and just kept talking about it, there's a Facebook group of cybersecurity educators. There's a number of other people that are offering curricula around cybersecurity or giving ideas around cybersecurity. So my presentation was kind of the germ that started it, but then there's a lot of side conversations that came out of that. And I came away as a presenter with a lot more, and definitely in the way of making connections and meeting people who were doing the same thing I was doing. So I was really lucky in the way that worked out. So I think that's pretty typical. I think we're always going to be nervous when we're talking to our peers, but that was my first experience presenting.
Hey, and Vicky, you have some reflections?
Yeah, a lot like Derek. I mean, I think we all have an imposter syndrome of a certain level. When we first put our first submission in thinking, oh, everybody knows better than me. And it's scary to stand up and act like you know best and talk to your peers. But the fun thing, and one of the things I really like about CSTA is everybody's really welcoming, and you don't have to feel like you're an expert. You can have conversations. Put in for a session like a BOF where you want to lead a conversation as opposed to acting like the expert, or do a poster where you can just present something that's happening in your classroom, things that are easier entrees, or like I did the first time I presented, I co-presented with somebody. So it wasn't just me up there. And it really helped because then you've got somebody to help plan with, to shoot ideas off of, and they can take over and also help manage the session. So don't be afraid to submit, and also don't be afraid to get turned down, right? I have gotten turned down so many times, not just at the CSTA conference, but at other conferences. That's okay. Put in anyway and try again if you get turned down. So.
And do you
Yeah,
want to
sorry, I'm
explain
going to
a
jump
little
on
bit about,
Vicky
oops, sorry.
right there, just because that was always big for me, is that I could get my school district to pay for some of the things if I was a presenter. So I applied to present at so many things, and I've gotten turned down multiple times to ISTE. I've gotten turned down to CSTA. Like, just try to get yourself out there and put yourself in a position, because eventually you will get accepted, even if it's not the first time out. Sorry, I didn't mean to jump on top of Alfred's toes
No,
there.
that's okay. I was going to ask Vicky to explain what a BOF is.
Right. I see a question about BOF. It's birds of a feather. Basically, it's not a planned presentation. It's getting together with peers, either around an affinity group, perhaps. Like one BOF that I presented in the past was for K-8 educators, where we talked about getting involved in our Twitter chat that we hold twice a month and how to do that. And we taught people how to get on Twitter and that kind of thing. Or it could be around a topic of interest. Perhaps you want to talk about equity in the classroom or something, but it's more a discussion, not a presentation, so that all the voices in the room can be heard. And all you have to do is facilitate that discussion, throw out those questions and get people to talk about it. So.
Thank you. Okay, Alfred.
So I'll never forget the very first time I did a PD session for teachers. Just before I went into the room, my principal said, "Oh, by the way, teachers are the worst possible audience." Just the kind of thing I needed to get me some confidence, I'll tell you. CSTA, though, is different. And it's different in part because it's not like a required PD that you're dragged into at school when you'd rather be finishing your report cards or catching up on your grading. The audience is there because they really want to learn from their peers. So they make a really good audience. I've been honored to present a number of times. Most recently, I presented at the online conference last summer. which again, I was pretty nervous about, I'll be honest with you, because I was torn. I wasn't sure which I was afraid of, that no one would show up or that too many people would show up. It turned out to be, I would say, just about right. And just as in the live conferences, the audience was tremendously supportive. One of the big advantages, and I think Derek really alluded to this when he was talking about his reflections, people are there because they're interested in your topic and they want to learn something new. But that also means that a lot of them have things to share themselves. And we found that, well, certainly I found when I was presenting, that as I would give one resource, other people in the chat would give multiple other resources. So I think I learned as much as, well, as I gave, quite frankly. It's a tremendous learning experience. I've made some tremendous friends from conversations I've had before, after, and during conferences. So it's really just a great way to build your network of people who support you and help you and who you can learn with and from. So it's just, and I've spoken at a bunch of conferences, and CSTA is definitely my favorite one to speak at.
Thank you, Alfred. Okay, next slide. Okay, getting started. First thing you should think about is a lesson or topic that would be of interest to CS teachers. And then ask other CS teachers for advice, feedback about your topic. And finally, review the application on the csteachers.org website. Anybody have anything to add about those steps? I know Derek said, didn't you say something about you reviewed yours first?
We did, yeah. When we are part of the review committee, when we're looking at all the applications, if for some reason one of the people who are on the committee are in the room, then they're asked to leave, and they're, you know, it's sort of an unbiased attempt to get everybody included. But I think the bigger thing I wanted to just say something on is, what do you have to offer? I think we undersell ourselves a lot. When I first went to this conference, I had been teaching computer science for a long time, but I didn't think I had anything new or spectacularly interesting to offer. But as you sat through a couple sessions, you start to realize that you do know some things that might be useful. And in the side conversations that you have in the hallway, you start to talk to people and you're giving them, oh, have you seen this resource, or have you looked at this thing? And you realize that even a sort of interesting lesson that you do really has a lot of room to grow and breathe in one of the different format types. And we'll talk about those here in just a second. But don't sell yourself short. If you do something that your students enjoy, maybe that's a great, you know, indicator that this is something that other people need to be doing. And if they're not doing it, you're the person to sort of bring that to them.
Thank you. Okay, next slide. Okay, getting started. First of all, you need to decide what type of presentation you want to do. And I know Vicky talked about birds of the feathers, so I think we all know what kind that is. Then we have a workshop type that's 90 minutes long. Is that right? Yep,
Yeah,
90 minutes.
When we were
That's
in
right.
person,
It was supposed to be 3 hours and they shortened it for the virtual conference.
yeah, we thought that 3 hours was too long for a virtual, but when we were in person, they were 3 hours, and really you dug into an idea. This is a little bit less than that in terms of the time that you get to dig in, but the idea is that you do really investigate something more than just have it presented to you.
Okay, then we have mini sessions. So this might be a good first step if you're not too sure you want to present. It's a 15-minute lesson, and then there's 5 minutes afterwards for questions. So that might be a good first step. Another good first step might be a poster session. You pre-record yourself for about 5 minutes in length. And during the poster session, you have the opportunity to interact with your attendees through the chat. And then the last one is a general session. And those are a presentation that's about 45 minutes in length. So these are the types of sessions that you can think about that you might want to present at the CSTA conference, and then you can build your application around the session, type of session that you want to do.
Yeah, and again, to give an idea, the first year that I talked about cybersecurity, I did it as a general session, and then it seemed like enough people were interested that I pushed it to be a workshop for the following year. So that's another thing to do is if you have an idea, if you're building something interesting and you're like, especially if you have an interesting program at your school, something you think other people might want to emulate, that's a really good session that can build to a workshop if that's applicable.
Another thing that I'd like people to think about considering, if you want to do something and it's just one lesson and you're thinking, well, I want to kind of talk that one lesson, a mini session might be really good, or a poster. But another option is there's a session every year called Nifty Sessions, and those are specifically around lessons that you consider are nifty. Okay, they're very cool lessons, and you could easily talk about that one lesson. And there's a separate proposal for that. There's a separate submission process for that. It comes out a little later usually. So it's something also you could think about maybe potentially putting your hat in the ring for, and presenting just that one lesson during the Nifty session. That's a very fun session, and you can get some really great ideas in it for lesson ideas.
Oh, we have a question. I'm not sure the answer to this, but it says, how long are Nifty sessions?
They're typically like 7-ish minutes, maybe. They're pretty quick. They're shorter than minis usually, and it's just a presentation of what that format is. Let me find the website and I can put the link in.
Thank you.
Yeah, but definitely apply for Nifties. I think they only had 4 submissions last year.
Yeah.
And it was obviously an odd year, and those come later. The Nifties will come after the fact, and I think that we'll continue to have Baker Frankie sort of pilot that. So him and his committee are really the ones that are selecting those, and we just sort of give them a slot.
Yep.
Okay, Alfred, do you have anything to add? I think
if I can unmute my speak. Yeah, I think one of the things you should be aware of, if when the conference committee meets, very often when they're trying to build a schedule, they'll look at different sessions and try and determine sometimes if somebody proposes a mini session, but there's enough material there and the committee feels like it fits into the program well, they may ask a presenter if they're willing to extend it to a session. Likewise, depending on planning, occasionally people are asked if they can move to a mini session. So I guess the point I'm trying to make is that you present in your proposal what you think is best, and you make a good case for it, and the conference committee will make a really good best effort at trying to fit everything into an appropriate block. So, if you're on the edge between a mini session and a workshop, or a poster session and a mini session, you could actually feel free to reach out to committee members in advance. And I'm sure any of us would be happy to make suggestions based on our own experiences.
Thank you, Alfred. Okay, next slide. Okay, application process. There's actually 3 steps. And the first step is you're going to enter the details for each presenter. So if you're going to have a co-presenter, then you enter the details for both of you. There is one complimentary registration for the primary presenter only. You can include a 30-second video to help introduce yourself and your passion for the topic that you're presenting. And I think, Vicky, when we were talking about this, you had some great ideas on that one.
Yeah, I would highly suggest you do that because it can help us realize as committee members, realize your passion for your topic. Only the committee is going to see it. It's not publicly accessible, but one of the things my plan is around making the video is making it kind of an elevator pitch for my session. So if it gets accepted, then I can use that elevator pitch on social media to promote my session before the conference. So I can use it for multiple things. And we'd love to kind of meet those people who want to be presenters. And this is a way for us to meet you and see your passion for your topic.
Thank you. And okay, then next you should select a topic for your, obviously, for your presentation. Oh, and session title, maximum 60 characters, session description, and then you have a short description. I believe that's the one that goes into the actual program, and obviously select a topic for your presentation. Okay, next slide.
I don't know if you noticed, Myra, but Michelle just put in the chat that there's a small but exciting update for the virtual conference. There's a complimentary registration for all presenters in a session. So
cool. 2
co-presenters, you both get registration to the conference. So that's awesome.
Oh, thank you, Michelle. Okay, now you have some suggested or requested topics. These are from surveys after the conference last year. And we have some general interest ones. Obviously, distance learning, I know that's a big topic on everybody's mind. Creating equitable classrooms, recruiting for equity, differentiation, culturally responsive teaching, and teaching strategies and pedagogy. And then we have a list of topics for K through 5, STEAM, cross-curricular integration. I know that's big in elementary, unplugged activities, and using manipulatives, teaching CS in PK to 2 students, 2 PK to 2 students, non-programming CS standards. Okay, and then 6 to 8. One thing that I thought was interesting was there was more suggested topics in 6 through 8 than there was in any other grade level. So we have cross-curricular integration again, makerspaces, introductory programming, unplugged activities, programming robotics, non-programming CS standards, personalized learning, machine learning AI, and cybersecurity. And then for high school, challenging topics to teach virtually. I could probably use that right now. Project-based learning, cybersecurity, machine learning and AI, and advanced topics. Okay, and Vicky, you had a point the last time we were going over this about these topics.
Oh, this isn't an exhaustive list, right? You may be doing something in your classroom that's not on this list. Make sure that, you can put that in. These were just suggestions. It's nice to look at them. And if you have something that you go, oh, I have an awesome thing that I do with, maker spaces in middle school, put it in. But if you have something else that's unique that you do in middle school, you can also submit that,
Yeah, just to be clear, we asked all of our attendees, what did we miss? We have this survivor bias of everything that we're doing, you see it represented in your conference, but what's going on out there that we're missing? And that's where we really wanted to pick it up. So if you've been to one of our conferences in the past and didn't see something that you know is going on either in your school or a colleague of yours that you know, like throw that in there. We want to be as wide ranging as possible so that we're getting things that, again, we know we're missing things. So that's what we're trying to get at.
I think one other thing is important to mention. When we asked people what they wanted to see, this was last summer, and we, we're still trying to, all of us, figure out what remote teaching was like and what teaching during a pandemic is like. So there's probably a lot of things that we didn't even know we needed that, you may have solutions to problems we didn't know we were going to have this time last year. So, if you've got something that you've learned, in this kind of situation, I think a lot of people would benefit from it. So think about that as well.
And I know there's some things that I'm doing in distance learning that I will probably carry over when we're back face to face. So even if you're doing it in distance learning and it's successful, it could possibly be successful in a face-to-face classroom too. Okay, next slide. Oh, here's a question. Are all of these just presented as what we've done for remote teaching only, or is it open to projects done in class? Somebody want to field the question, the answer to that? I would say it could be either.
Yeah, me too. I can't imagine, we're all hoping we will get back into class. In fact, I just heard today that our K-2 are coming back on campus. So we're going to be doing some things in person. There may be some differences because we can't always share things the way we did in the past, but we will be back in person. And at some point, everyone will be back in person. So absolutely either one.
And the hope is we will all be back in person beginning next school year. That's what I'm hoping. Okay, so I've gone over the presenter details, presentation information, and now we're to presentation details. So you will need an outline of your presentation, key takeaways and learning objectives, and presentation type. And we will go to the next slide. Okay, application helpful hints. Derek.
I'm always first on this list, so that's easier.
You're the chair.
The biggest thing that we see, and having judged these now, I started on the conference committee when it was in Omaha as sort of the local flavor, and then I've just stuck around as long as they'll have me. The things that we see that are just like little things that could be better is filling out all of the little captions, right? There's lots of little sections to the application, and sometimes people will have a really robust outline in one and then sort of think that that trickles down to the next. And I'm not saying it doesn't, but it is really nice, even if you have to repeat yourself a little bit between some of the learning objectives versus what is your plan, just to have it as filled out as possible. And then I know I'm stealing other people's thunder here, but the abstract is kind of what everybody will see from a top layer. So there will be a number of people that review every application and give it a ranking. And we use that ranking as sort of a starting point. But obviously, as a conference committee, we want to find the best group of things that we can put together that hits the most number of possible people, all that. So if we're looking for something that maybe we're just not finding enough K2 that deals with manipulatives, or we're not finding enough high school that deals with what to do after the AP exam, you might have a really good thing. It just got buried. It maybe didn't get ranked as highly for whatever reason. But if the abstract is good, that's the top level that we'll see first. And that's what brings something maybe that didn't get ranked as highly up, so that everyone can see what that sort of overview is at a very quick glance. Vicky, you've done this as long as I have, so maybe you can add more to that.
Yeah, I echo a lot of what Derek said. Make sure you actually fill out the application. Another step that I like to emphasize for first-time presenters is have somebody else look over your application, kind of do it on a Google Doc first and have somebody else look at it and see if, you know, it sounds good to them. It can be just really helpful. I find when I reread my own stuff, you know, I miss the typos. I miss, you know, I realize I didn't, oh, I left something out that I should have said. And do that video this year. I really think that will be helpful for the conference committee. We do, like Derek said, some things can bubble up. We're looking for a balanced program, like Alfred kind of talked about. So if we get, you know, 100 submissions that are all about teaching Scratch in grade 3 to 5, even if all 100 of them are really awesome, we're not going to accept all 100. So think of something that you're doing that might be a little unique. If you've got something unique, you know, put that in. Of course, if you've got something great on, you know, teaching Scratch to 3 to 5, that's great too. But put your own spin on it, you know, and make sure you fill everything out. That's my biggest thing, is actually fill out the application because we often will get somewhere something's left blank.
Okay. Alfred, do you have some suggestions?
Yeah, Vicky has been really promoting the video, and I would second that. One of the things we're trying to do as a conference, and actually as an organization, is broaden participation. And what that means is we get a lot of people, you know, I think I've presented 4 or 5 times at the conference. So in that sense, I'm kind of a known quantity, but we don't want to have just known quantities. We want to have new people. And we want to have people who are excited and dynamic and interested in what they're talking about. And if you haven't been presented, this video is going to be a great opportunity. We're not going to judge you on, you know, high production values. You know, we're not looking for something that, you know, you'd throw on TV or that you'd use to start a career as a professional presenter. We want to hear what your topic is and see your passion. And those are the critical things. So, you know, don't worry about production quantity, just worry about sharing your enthusiasm for the topic. That's what we want to see.
Thank you, Alfred. Now, I've read for several years the conference applications, and one of the suggestions I have is think about it as you're writing a lesson plan for a substitute teacher, and you want to make sure they do everything that you want them to do. Think about that as you're writing your application. You want to make sure that the people on the other side of the application that's going to be reading it understands what you're doing. Sorry about that. Because they're going to take maybe 10 or 15 minutes to evaluate your application. So you need to make a good first impression. Okay, next slide. Oops,
Agreed.
go ahead.
One other note, when you're filling it out, if you're going for a workshop, make sure that you've told us how you're going to spend your time in that workshop, because if we can't see that you can fill 90 minutes, it may not get accepted because of that, for example. Might be an awesome topic, but it may look like you're going to spend 30 minutes and we're going to wonder why you're presenting a workshop. So make sure that your application supports whatever session type you're going for.
I agree with Vicky. I've reviewed some of those where I said, oh, are they really going to be able to fill this time slot? So that's a good recommendation. Okay, anybody have anything else to add? Okay, next slide. Okay, the CSTA conference wants you. The application deadline is November 8th. And I have the link up there. You can also get to it from the csteachers.org website. If you're not quite ready yet, every year they're always looking for reviewers. to review the proposals. So that is another good first step if you're thinking about presenting. Of course, it delays it a year. You could apply this year to present and then next year apply to review. Yeah, not anymore this year. They've closed that off, unfortunately. And then you could apply to review proposals to see what other people have submitted. It's always, I think it's very interesting to read through what other people plan to present. Anybody have anything to add to that?
Reading proposals is a great way to learn what a good proposal is and what it's not. I think if you do review, I think you'll quickly see what proposals stand out to you as, yes, this is something that I would, that would fit the conference, and this requires more information. And so it's a great learning experience. So it's highly recommended, and it's fun too. Well, for me anyway.
And yeah, and they don't ask you to review a lot of proposals. I think I reviewed maybe 5. I'm trying to remember, but it was not that big of a burden. Okay, next slide.
It's not designed to be a big burden. And like Alfred said, you really get a feel for what people are presenting. And I think that more than anything helped me sort of bring it back down and think, oh, I can do this. You see people up there and that's the end of all the work that they've done. But it's nice to see people sort of at the beginning of sort of when it's still a germ and they're coming up with the idea of what they're going to talk about. That's a really useful stage to see what people are considering. I think it gives you a lot of confidence to think, I could do this too.
Okay, I have someone in the chat that asked if they could present on a specific curriculum. I'm not sure. Looks like it's from someone outside the US. We have a response to that.
Yeah, I was going to say,
Yeah, before
we do that, we have people.
Go ahead, Derek.
Oh, yeah. We have people that present on code.org that aren't code.org representatives. I've seen lots of people talk about beauty and joy of computing, which is, again, a proprietary thing, but this is what I do in my class. And I'm going to tell you how my class runs, and it runs on this.
Right.
So, yeah, what do you think about that, Vicky?
Well, and we've had people from Korea present on the curriculum that they're using in Korea. So we have had people from outside the US present on curriculum that they're using with their students in their classrooms. So it's not to be a sales pitch. So if it's a curriculum that you've developed and are selling, that's a different story. But if it's a curriculum you're using with your students, absolutely. And there are ways for curriculum providers to also become sponsors and potentially presenters too. So you can contact the committee about that.
I know I've seen, with the microbit in particular, because that was built by the BBC and, with English schools, I know that they've come and presented, and Miles Berry, who's been on the board, has presented on that. So I know it's not strictly an American conference.
Correct.
Okay.
And Shibitronics, that was a fun one.
There we go. Okay.
Before we close things out, before we get to that because the next slide is just the upcoming activities, because we have a few more minutes, want to see if there was anyone else who had a question. And I think it would be helpful here if it were like generally speaking, not specific on, topics necessarily, but any other questions. And if you would like to unmute yourself and ask, you're welcome to do that or put it in the chat box. And Michelle, I also should give you opportunity. Michelle Lapoli, if you would like to jump on. Michelle works for CSTA and helps to organize the event. So Michelle, if there's anything you also would like to add, we'd be happy to have you do that as well.
Sure. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining. I don't have anything extra to add that our wonderful committee members haven't already done as an overview, but really just want to reiterate their encouragement to just apply. And it's meant to be not a super painful experience, but hopefully it's a good one. And we'd love to have you involved.
Thank you so much for joining us, Michelle. Any others that have questions that they would like to raise for the group?
Oh, that's an interesting question. If we don't present still, would we get the opportunity to attend the conference? Oh, yes. We need people to attend the conference. That's why we plan it.
It's virtual this year, so you can attend from anywhere and not have to worry about travel and things like that. So.
And the link that Derek put in earlier, that would give you updates as to registration for the conference.
Thank you. We have a question in the chat box from Kimberly Sanchez. It says, what does a 1 hour session usually cover? Is it people's lessons or presentations on research? Do you all have examples from past conferences that you might be able to share, kind of like what might be expected in an hour-long session?
Well, it's actually a 45-minute session. And it's typically teachers presenting to teachers. So it's not necessarily research-based, though we have had some, there have been some research presentations, absolutely. But usually it's what's happening in my classroom that I want to share. Like Derek was talking about his cybersecurity curriculum, that he talked about how to teach cybersecurity in high school. And I actually got a lot of information from my middle schoolers that I took, stole from Derek, even though it was a high school session. So it's typically teachers to teachers, and it's about things you're doing in your classroom. But we've had, some research things. We've had, specifically about a specific curriculum or about just in general, how do I teach unplugged to elementary school? So it can, the conference is for teachers. So that should be your focus when you're putting in your session proposal.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
So I know this is K-12 focused and I'm college, university, but I was always thinking when I did teach K-12, I always kind of wanted to know, what do the college students think if they're looking backwards? So if I got a bunch of college students that are taking computer science classes now at the college level as a panel, what would I put that in as? A general session, a workshop? And would that even be something everybody's interested in?
I jump in. I think that's something that would be super interesting, because that's one of the areas that we talked about before, is sort of the post AP. If you had students that could sort of speak to whether they took computer science in high school or not, and how they felt they were prepared coming into college, I think that would be really interesting. I don't know that you probably want to spend 90 minutes with that, but certainly 45 minutes of discussion would be fantastic. And this is one that I could really sink your teeth into as a in-person, when we get back to in-person things, but even virtually, I think that this is a really useful topic, and not one I think we've seen before. We certainly wouldn't turn down something because it doesn't neatly fit into our K-12 bubble. We've seen lots of things that sort of go outside of those boundaries that we're thrilled to bring in.
And I would say from a high school teacher standpoint, I'd love to see that session, especially if they talked about some things such as, I wish we would have done this in my high school class, to give me some ideas as to other things that I could possibly be covering, or that could be a post-AP exam topic.
Wonderful. I have probably 4 or 5 in mind, so I'm going to see what I can do tomorrow.
Oh, thank you. Any other questions?
And if there are any other higher ed people, I teach elementary and I've taught middle school in the past as well. I would love to see, I see research all the time that people are conducting in higher ed, but I would love to see something with a practical application of the research for the classroom. Not just presenting what the research is, but tell me how practically I can use that in my classroom. That's something I think is missing, that tie into this is awesome research and you found some great things, but what can I do with it in my classroom would be a great topic. I think I would love that topic. So if there's other higher ed folks, just letting you know.
I love that suggestion. Yeah, I'd like to see that too, because we see research, but no practical application. Any other questions? Okay, we have CS for All Teachers has some upcoming activities. Melissa, were you planning on speaking about those?
Absolutely, I'd be happy to. So we do have a new discussion group that's focused around the equity and access in computer science, and this is free to all individuals who sign up for membership at csforallteachers.org. We also have an upcoming webinar on November the 12th at 4:30 Pacific, 7:30 Eastern, that's around culturally responsive teaching and building community in your CS classroom. And I put also in the chat box there that, speaking of kind of getting student perspectives, one of our other community ambassadors just last Thursday did a webinar where she teaches online and has been doing that for some time now with the Pennsylvania homeschoolers group. And so it teaches a lot of the CS courses online, the 2 AP courses, and I believe she's also done ECS as well. But she asked some of her former students to come and share their perspectives about learning online. So they've been doing this pre-pandemic, and so kind of sharing their perspective. The recording, we had to do some editing on it, but it should be coming soon, and I put the link there to the CS for All Teachers site, and it's on the event space. Similarly to that post will be the same thing as I mentioned before here too. We will share both of these slides as well as the recording for this event. It'll come in a couple of days. We post it up on the calendar so you can go back, and we actually have, there's multiple tabs on our events page on CS for All Teachers, and there's one that's an events archive, and you can go back in time to all the wonderful webinars we have, and many of them are considered what we would call evergreen, that they are still very much useful and helpful. So there's a great way for you to take a look at those. I'm super grateful to Myra for getting this organized and asking our 3 panelists to be here. And again, we're so grateful also to have Michelle here from CSTA. This is a wonderful opportunity. I talk about this a lot, that, I know and I believe that teachers really are the ones to lead the way. You all are the experts. I know that Derek and Vicky spoke about this earlier about that imposter syndrome. We can do, there are folks in my organization, and I'm involved in terms of research, et cetera, but you all are the ones on the ground working most closely with students, and you truly are the experts in what works well in the classroom. And so being able to share that with others is a wonderful opportunity. It's a great chance, especially I'm trying to look for the positive, the silver lining here with what's happening with COVID, is I know that talking with Jake and others at CSTA, they had the biggest conference they've ever had. I think the same will be true in 2021. And so this is allowing opportunity for you all to be able to learn and connect, even if you wouldn't have been able to do that in person. So thank you to all. And we will also say, this little caveat is, the website, we have this information here and we put it together, but obviously keep up with what's on the csteachers.org site, the CSTA site, that will be the one that keeps the most up-to-date information if there's any changes or anything that happens there. So good luck. I hope to see some of your names when I look for the agenda next July. So thank you all so much. I hope you all have a great evening.
And thank you all for coming.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, thank you.